Whoa, whoa. What is up, Rat Potential YouTube, and welcome to today's video. Be it that the channel has been growing quite a bit in the last month. My name is Eric. If you guys didn't know that, it's also spelled with an H, E-R-I-C-H, because H's are cool. What we are doing today is not a race car thing. It's going to be a decent update for you guys who are new. Come on, dog. Letty. Let's go. Oh, yeah, and by the way, that's my dog. Her name is Letty, like Fast and Furious. And yes, that's why her name's Letty, because she's fast. Not really furious, but she's fast. Anyways, so what we're doing today. I really enjoyed all of the feedback that I got from you guys on the past video asking about the Cosmo. So I need to do some preliminary build planning for the Cosmo, and I figured I would share my thought process whenever I go to I say not really like start, but to start, like my process to start a new build for me personally, right? There's builds where you got like the race car, it's pretty cut and dry. We're gonna paint it like a replica rally car. Builds, like the cheap Jeep, which you'll see an update after a year of ownership, like fixing the front end and whatever. Builds like this, which is just making a street car. But this is actually going to be like a pretty custom job, similar to what we did with the vert truck, but the vert truck process was started, I guess not really before this channel, but I just didn't document it. So, here's what we're doing. The Cosmo, right? 76, super cool, rat-filled, because it's been sitting out here, not because it was at DJ's house where I got the car from. I had the seats and stuff out of it just to kind of inspect everything. But the Cosmo, it's sick. Let's pop the hood. Spring-loaded hood because they're epic. Rust-filled hood because it's epic. So, the Cosmo, if you didn't know, is kind of more of a bigger car from Mazda. It's although it looks similar in videos and pictures to an Rx5, it is basically nothing of the like besides maybe the radiator and like the engine and trans. The rear axle is different. It's the same as like an RX4, RX3 axle, or no. I'd have to check on the RX3 thing, but I'm pretty sure it's close to the same size as an RX4 axle. It's a big drum brake axle, not quite as big as a Repu, but close. The wheel bolt pattern is actually 4x120, not 4x110, and not 4x114, but 4x120. It's its own thing. It's its own thing. So, I want to put an Rx7 subframe under this car in the front. And you can see here that the center of the K member actually looks pretty close to that of an Rx7. The shape's got that nice U shape, but you'll notice, and the steering box and drag link is in a pretty, reasonably same spot as an Rx7. You'll notice that this car has a double wishbone, like a lower control arm and stuff. I'm not going to jack it up to show you, but it's got its own more bougie sedan style suspension, right? For big car stuff, not simple McPherson stuff, for sports car stuff. So, with that being said, putting an Rx7 subframe in here, as you can see, the standard issue ride height, and then when you look at how high that frame rail sits off the ground, is probably going to lower this car a substantial amount. So what I want to do first is measure the width of the frame rails here. And we're looking at, we'll say, about 25 inches or so. Y'all literally didn't see anything, but my eye chronometer, which is pretty well calibrated, we'll say 25 and a half inches. And you'll notice the frame rail's pretty flat right here for about, what is that, right, 11 inches? Yep, 11 inches. And then we have a jut down for, this is where the motor mount would go. And then the subframe would be independent of that. Now, we're going to go over to an Rx7. And I guess we'll say, processing the build. I like to plan out the build completely as far in advance as I can. So I want to know what parts I need to buy, what parts I want to run, what wheels I want to run, what motor I want to run, what everything I want to put in it. Because you can't get good deals on parts shopping on a time frame. If you're trying to find a transmission in 2 days, you're going to have to pay good money for one. If you just want to find a transmission over the course of 3 months, you can buy one when it's a good deal. So that's kind of the intent there. So we're going to come up here to this car. Oh, wrong side. So we're going to come up here to this car now and do some similar measurements. So this is also an RX-7. I say also an RX-7. A Mazda RX-7. Okay, now we're gonna do some cool YouTube movie magic right now. This is this car now, and right here, over on this side, is what this car used to look like when I daily drove it in college. Ask me why the previous owner took it apart. It was rusty. Which it is rusty, but dude, it looks so good. I shouldn't have ever sold it back to the original owner. Should have kept it. So, looking at this, ideally in the Cosmo we keep the same drag link, we keep the same pitman arm or idler arm here and steering box to the Cosmo. But you can see just from looking at this, probably if your eye chronometer is reasonably well calibrated, that these frame rails are much further apart than the Cosmo frame rails. So we were showing what, 25.5 on that one, and I need 2 hands for this to get an actual exact number here, and we're looking at 29 inches on this car. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, that means that we've got 4 extra inches of subframe between the frame rails from the Cosmo to this. You'll look and see here the RX-7 subframes are a 2-bolt subframe. Right there in the center, there's just 2 bolts to hold it up. You have a tension arm up here in the front where the sway bar goes through. This guy. Right there. That's the tension arm mount, which has 3 bolts in and of itself that holds it on. So, for this ordeal to work in that Cosmo, assuming we keep the same drag link that's in the Cosmo and everything, right? The subframe should line up about right with the stock strut towers, as this looks like it pretty much is a straight line. I'd bet the Cosmo one, the subframe probably sits a tad bit further back. But I need to devise a way to mount that tension bar, the front tension rod, because McPherson strut works with a tension rod just like a Nissan 240 or however. Man, it is cold out here. Whoa. Okay, so let's look at this Cosmo real quick. I won't be able to use an RX-7 sway bar because it's going to be too wide if I have to narrow the track width of the car, or narrow the subframe, right? Then that's going to be that. I guess I should check the track width too, because if I narrow the subframe to fit these frame rails, then the wheels might be mega sunk, and that might throw off the camber issue with running these strut towers here. So, can see that there looks like down in here I could build a little flat spot that's level with this to mount that tension rod to, or just make my own tension rod mount. So, what I would do there is basically keep the stock tension rods on, put the subframe in, see where they land, and then build. All you need is a flat plate with a hole in it, as long as it's, angled right, and then set where the axis, your suspension axis isn't going to put it in a bind. Then we should be okay. Let's measure the track width, just kind of offhand here. Quick little tape measure, let's see if it is any wider. I doubt it is. I doubt it would be that much wider. 60 inches or so, 5 foot. The measurement that's going to need to be important as well, hopefully that doesn't just stay dark, as you can see right here is the mounting points of the subframe to the frame. So what's the dimension from that right here frame rail to the outside of the tire? We'll say 16 inches with a stock spare. So the car is 60 inches wide. And I'm not going to measure off that one because it's got weird stuff. We're going to go to actually DJ's car here and measure off the blue one, which you guys will see get fixed up here in the next couple months. But for now, it's just chilling. Ooh. So this is actually going to benefit us a little bit. I have 64 inches. 64 inches to the outside of the tire. Now, you might have done the same mental math connection that I just did and figured out that if the Rx7 is 4 inches wider than the Cosmo and then I need to narrow the subframe 4 inches to fit, we might have something that works. So let's go frame rail to outside of the tire on this car. Ooh, 15 inches. So here's where that gets funky, right? So we're gonna do this math in my head, but I'll go draw it on the board because I stored all these numbers so magically inside. All right, let's get this stuff drawn. So here, this is gonna be the Cosmo. Oh, well, let's do this here. Cosmo. And then here we'll draw, this is Rx7. Okay, so Rx7, frame rail to frame rail dimension, here to here, was 29 inches. On the Cosmo, frame rail to frame rail dimension, here to here was 25 inches. And it was 25 and a half, we'll just say 25-ish, easy math for now. Now, assuming the thickness of the frame rail could vary a little bit, we measured from the outside of the frame rail to the tire-ish on the Cosmo was 16 inches, and on the Rx7, the outside of the tire, or the outside of the frame rail to the outside of the tire, so this dimension here was, what was it, 14? 15? I'm going to say 14. 14 inches. The overall width of this one was 64, and the overall width of this one was 60. Now, you'll say, well, the offset of the wheels could be different, this, that, and the other could very well be different. Yes, 100%. But I can always run a spacer on the Rx7 subframe if I need to, and I think, too, that the Cosmo has more fender than what the stock wheel is going to fit. So if it is wider, if I run like a zero offset wheel, I was just going to poke. So, what we're looking at here is taking this setup and putting it under this car. So, narrowing the subframe in the middle is going to bring the wheel and everything in. I know from Rx7s that the pickup point for the suspension sits about the same place on the subframe as the Cosmo one, so like maybe 2 to 3 inches inside of the frame rail, so that control arm actually goes up into the subframe a little bit, and the suspension, you know, if here's the frame rail on the Cosmo, you remember the bolts were here for this wishbone, right? On an Rx7, the bolt is here for that straight lower McPherson strut, and then right in, it's kind of under the frame rail, up here is where that tension rod goes on the Rx7. So the thing that will be kind of funky is where the strut tower is located on each car with reference to the actual suspension geometry, right? If we take an Rx7 subframe, section the middle off, scoot this in so that this lines up on this frame rail, where does that strut hit, you know, is basically, if this is a section view of the Cosmo and you have your tire here, and this is a section view of the Rx7, if here's your strut mounting point and here is your strut mounting point, does this geometry differ from this geometry here with reference to the amount of camber that would be created, because this is a McPherson strut, so the spindle is attached to that. So you tip this in versus tip that in. You know, is the reference point of this to this the same as this to this? here to here, here to here. Is that the same on the cars if I hold the frame rail constant for the subframe mounting? So I don't know if that makes sense to any of you guys. And I didn't lose my cap. But that's the front end subframe stuff. What I want to do is ask you guys for your opinion on a couple things, okay? With the race car build, kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say slowing down, but we're getting to the part where the last 30% of the build takes 80% of the time, right? So, hooking up the wiring, getting the intakes on, getting the radiator in, getting it plumbed, building the exhaust. So obviously, like, building the exhaust will be a video I'll probably make standalone, and it'll have a bunch of updates, and the title can be whatever, you know, that sort of thing. So what things on the race car do you want to see specifically put together with regard to GSLSE stuff? I know there's going to be a lot of you guys here for this, that, and the other, but if you have a GSLSE, comment below on something you need, on something on the car that you need me to address that's mechanical, right? So whether it's intakes, this, that, and the other. The second thing, after the race car is done, I am not planning on starting another one of my own projects right away. I have an opportunity to, and I know I've said this before in other videos, I don't work on other people's cars, but I got a buddy here that wants his engine bay painted and then the motor swapped out on a right-hand drive FD. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pop that motor in, paint the bay for him right when the race car's done. I think I got it scheduled to come in February. So for the FD guys out there, which I know on this channel there's probably not that many of them, but maybe we'll grow some more. What content would you want to see done with that car? Pester my buddy to let me film some videos about it, you know, maybe show you how weak and crappy the door panels are, you know, little things like that. If there's little things that you want me to go over and show you, let me know, and I can do a video on it while the car is here. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about doing the Holley Sniper thing. It's on my list of things I need to buy. The hard part is when you're looking to like buy vinyl to do my wrap on the other car, to do my new bucket seats for the other car, get those ordered. I got to get new tires ordered for that car. All the little nickel and dime things I've just been kind of saving to get that thing done before I go spend $1,500 on the Sniper, which you know, ideally drum some content up. But 100%, this YouTube channel does not make enough money to fund building any of these cars, so I still have to work and do stuff like that. And the more of you guys that join in the channel, the more I have opportunities to educate you and help you figure out your problems. That's the goal for the channel. The goal for the channel is not to fund and build this huge empire of me being able to go compete in drift events and this, that, and the other. The goal for the channel is to take cool problems and solve them, whether it's cars, whether it's building a trebuchet to launch pumpkins to my neighbor's house, whether it's doing whatever. That's what I intend to do with the channel. The fact of the matter is, Rx7s and rotaries are the medium right now. That's what I got in front of me to work with. That's what we're going to put on the channel. So, with that, me rambling, back to Cosmo stuff. Alright, so the front end is done. Sort of, kind of. I need to figure out a way. I think that these struts are actually further inboard on the Cosmo than the other one. So let's go ahead and let's take a measurement just strut to strut on this car. Center bolt to center bolt. We're looking at 40 inches. As far as the rear, I'll sum up the rear suspension stuff in literally 5 seconds. Nah, I can't talk that slow or talk that fast. Rear suspension is super easy. It's a straight axle. An RX-7 is a straight axle. I'm going to cut all the mounts off of an RX-7 axle. I'm going to weld the Cosmo mounts onto it, and it's going to bolt right in. Whether the track width is different, this, that, and the other, it's a straight axle. I'll run spacers. It's not like it's going to mess up my geometry or my roll center having spacers in the rear. And it's not like this car is going to make enough horsepower to shred a spacer off. So, call that for what it is, but I definitely forgot my number. That is the width of these struts on the Cosmo. Alright, I am 42 inches on the RX-7. And what is the Cosmo again? You guys can comment it, say it out loud, scream it to your kids and friends because you know it before I get back over here and measure it again. So 42 inches on the RX-7, and we're 40 inches on the Cosmo. So you might be like, well, that's pretty close, but yet it's not. So With the RX-7 being only 2 inches wider and me needing to narrow the subframe 4 inches, in order to, quick math, do the geometry right, the Cosmo strut towers need to be moved in another 2 inches. So I need to move them in an inch on each side to get me that. Okay, so we're 42 on that one. So that means the RX-7 is an inch wider at the strut tower. I'm going to bring the whole thing in 4 inches, or 2 inches on each side. So that means that the Cosmo strut tower needs to move 1 inch in order to match where the RX-7 strut would land to keep the stock geometry on the RX-7. Yeah, so I think I should be able to make that up with a smaller diameter coil spring and a camber plate. So if I just get a universal, or maybe weld this flush and drill new holes in it or something to fit like an S13 or something top hat, but whatever that is, this is going to need to move in to here. This needs to move in an inch in order to make the stock RX-7 geometry work. So, and with all of that, I get to choose, do I use the factory Cosmo engine mount, which looks like the sway bar runs under it, or do I not? Boom. Alright, so another portion of this video is sort of kind of separate, but not really. I need to remove some parts from this car real quick before it gets dark and I get cold. And it's not rainy today, so I need to pull the upper intake manifold off, the intake tubing off, pull the injectors out of it because they need to go in the other car, and then grab the ECU and stuff out of the bottom of this as well. So, this is the one from this car. That ECU is the one from the race car. So, I'm not going to film that. I will film me putting all that stuff together on the race car in here. I need to hop on my tractor, dig my sump out from my ditch, and just kind of polish up a little bit of stuff. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, I'm stoked that we got the Cosmo suspension stuff measured off. The big thing is now my brain, while I'm working, when my mind's quiet, when whatever, you'll have different epiphanies over the next month or two, and then I can really like science that out and actually make it work, and it'll be fine. Just like the rotary truck frame that we built for Vert Truck, right? That was something where I looked at the G8 stuff, looked at the Repu, and decided I can make that work. So I'm stoked for that. So I appreciate you guys sticking around for my thought processes on that stuff. If you like this kind of video, especially the people that made it to the end, if you like this kind of a video, let me know, because this is a lot of stuff that I would be doing on a regular basis that, in my opinion, or I guess I say in my opinion, but I don't think is super interesting for you guys to watch when it's just kind of me like this, like just brain, telling everything that's going on in my head as I try to do it. So there's that. But if that's something you want to watch, and you want more of like, I guess I wouldn't necessarily say dialogue, but just like me kind of brain puking everything out so you guys can learn and see what's up, let me know, because I can definitely make these videos a lot longer. I can definitely make them a lot more detailed. And, a lot of these other YouTube channels may have like 20, 25-minute videos that are more entertaining. I'm trying to be semi-entertaining, but I'm not trying to be like funny Cletus McFarlane, just do dumb stuff to do dumb stuff. I'm trying to provide you guys with knowledge and information. So that's the jam. There might be some funny entertainment stuff every now and again, but that's that. So with that, thank you guys very much for tuning in, for subscribing. We're going to hit 2,000 subscribers here soon, I hope, unless all of you go unsubscribe for no apparent reason. But I'm stoked that the channel is growing. I'm stoked that you guys are supporting, learning and figuring out these old cars, figuring out all this cool stuff. And it's definitely beneficial for both you guys and me, because I learn from you guys commenting. You guys learn from me making the videos. And if you can learn one new thing every day, you'd be pretty dang smart. So, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Keep it rad.